Hey everyone, my name's Andy. My channel is Finding Value. If you're a new subscriber, welcome to the channel. I'm going to go over mild deflation coming from Lacey Hunt. I listened to some of the comments. I listened to the video that was linked, and I put together a presentation based off of the key points that Lacey Hunt makes. And I want to make sure everybody understands this because I think he has some valid points. And we'll jump right into it here. So, mild deflation coming, Lacey Hunt. So, what he looks at is debt to GDP. It's the economic activity becomes progressively weaker with more and more debt. The debt overhang over the GDP will weigh down economic activity as this gets more out of whack. And when I mean by more out of whack, they continue to pile on debt, which is going to make GDP or economic growth weaker, not stronger. We have a net national dissavings. With no physical savings, debt will make the economy weaker and weaker, much like Japan. So what's really driving the problem is the debt itself. The issuing and more issuing of debt and more issuing of debt and more issuing of debt is piling on, we'll call it liabilities, and not making your finances stronger. It's kind of like any person, any individual. If you continue to pile on debt, your income's just going to go to service debt. And if you get to a certain point, it's literally going to make you weaker because you're going to have more debt than you have income. So there's a couple of things that you have to do in order to basically turn this situation around, and we'll get to that later on in this presentation. So he's saying that deflation is coming because of that debt. When you look at demographics worldwide, it's the slowest worldwide growth in population. We have very low, we'll call it population growth worldwide, looking at it from a demographic standpoint. And that does not help the inflation camp. We have a non-linear relationship. So marginal revenue of the debt is declining. So if you put in debt to the system, you're not getting more revenue back. It's actually declining. And at some point it reverses. The more debt is going to actually decline your revenue. So demographics and populations are going lower over time worldwide. That is not helping. It's going to be hard to generate growth. And what the problem is we have a lack of savings worldwide. Savings is what can go into investment, which can increase growth, or economic growth, that is. It's not a Keynesian approach. It's more of an Austrian economics approach, which I agree with. I am an Austrian economics. So David Hume, one of the great thinkers in this world historically, when a state has mortgaged all of its future revenue, it lapses into tranquility or peace or quiet. It can't grow anymore. We have insufficient savings for investment. And government is responding with more and more debt, more stimulus. And the key takeaway here is more is not more. It's actually less. It's hurting us. So we've got jawboning by Powell. Powell's afraid he's afraid of not inflation, but deflation. So they are printing more and more money. Dr. Hunt says more and more is less. The debt overhang is killing economic activity. So the Federal Reserve cannot create inflation through the means that they are trying to create it with. So Powell is jawboning, trying to change habits of people in the system to get the velocity higher. And that is probably not going to work. It's only jawboning, and it will not spark inflation, perhaps. So the corporate sector, if we look at the corporate sector, companies are also over-indebted. They took on a lot of debt. Scarce capital is absorbed to sustain zombie companies. Malallocation of capital which is going to those zombie corporations. They must have savings out of income for growth. That's what we must have. We don't have that. So we have a debt, negative savings. See massive declines in velocity of money, and that's what we're seeing. GDP is determined by money and velocity, and we don't have that velocity aspect, and it's continuing to decline. Marginal revenue of the debt has declined since late 1990s, and also the velocity has declined with that. So we look at the velocity of money. He thinks that it's going to continue to decline over the next few quarters. Need income streams to repay principal and interest. That will be our savior or the solution, and we don't have that. And that will also increase velocity of money. The debt they are releasing will not increase income streams to repay principal and interest and will make the situation worse. So, solving the problem. Federal Reserve does not have the ability to spend. If they obtain the ability to spend, it will generate inflation, but it won't generate growth. It's going to make everyone's life miserable, and mild deflation, what we have today, is much better than hyperinflation. So if they change their policy, if you see this, that's when you got to run for the hills. No government lever to solve the problem we are in. Indebtedness problem needs to be solved by a period of savings. So here's some economic facts. Debt levels go higher and bond yields go lower in the current system. That's what we've seen looking at other economies and other systems out there, is that the higher the debt level goes, the lower the bond yields go in that system. If you pursue this policy, we get weaker growth and lower inflation/deflation. Money printing is not the answer, and hyperinflation is not good for anyone if the Federal Reserve can print money and spend it. Right now they can print money, but they can't spend it. Economy will weaken and everyone will run into commodities in this scenario if they could spend it. The best fiscal policy is one that always runs surpluses. So Hume, the best fiscal policy is the one that always runs surpluses. They have resources to handle problems when problems arise. The USA used to run this way before the Keynesian economics took over. Successful people have the savings to absorb a problem. So if you look at individuals and you look at successful individuals in terms of financial success, they always have rainy day funds. They always have absorbent amounts of capital to absorb problems. So the risks really are opening the Federal Reserve Act up to revision. And this could be bad if we go in the direction of money printing and they can spend it. So hopefully I did justice to Lacey Hunt in summarizing what that long interview was. It opened my eyes. I do think that there is he has a valid argument. And it's possible that we will have low deflation because that money cannot get into the hands of people. Now, how does this affect the channel's position? Precious metals, it's not going to affect that because they're going to do exceptionally well in this scenario. And they're going to go a lot higher. Commodities did well in the 30s. So I think we are all positioned exactly where we need to be with the demand-supply imbalances, with the uranium, with precious metals, with oil and gas. We'll see where that goes, but that's also definitely supply-demand. It may put downward pressure on the price of oil. But this is all going to be, hopefully, short-term, not in the long term. But they're continuing to pile on the debt. We see that, and that's going to make inflation, we'll say, it's going to make deflation worse, not inflation. That is the viewpoint. This is Finding Value. If you appreciate this clip, let me know. Leave some comments, click the thumbs up button, and subscribe. I appreciate it.